850,000 Ghanaians who have been pushed into the poverty line by 2022 under this administration is so sad that I feel we are not making progress as a country.
And you're speaking to that latest report, right?
That's so.
All right. And then also, Lawyer Jantwa is also here as well. He's with the Political Affairs Committee of the CPP as his chair. Good morning to you. He's also an energy consultant. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning.
Okay. And then also from Fantiakwa South, hopefully he will make a run again for the seats for the MPP. Eric Amwakuchum, good morning to you.
Good morning, Roland.
Great. Well, let me just go make some money. Who no like chop money? Dewa 539 chop money is here. So make sure that you collect your chop money every morning at 8:30 a.m. by simply dialing *446#. You have to select option 2 to play Dewa 539 chop money. Win 20 times your stake with Direct 1, 40 times your stake with Direct 2, 400 times your stake with Direct 3. You can also perm your numbers or bet on all 5 numbers to win big. Now, you pick from the ranges of the numbers 1 to 39, and then it becomes an easy win for you. Win every day with Dewa 539 because it is the only lottery that offers you the best chances of winning. So collect your chop money every morning into your mobile wallet simply by dialing *446# or also visiting the site www.dewa-nla.com to play Dewa 539 chop money. Tell you, for those of you who have some misgivings about maybe you played, you didn't get the feedback, we've reported it appropriately, it will be done. But this morning we're looking at a number of issues, and it's about Reverend Kusi Boateng, and we know the role he plays on the board of the National Cathedral, and then all the issues surrounding him. But this time, it's now already been discovered, apparently a diplomatic passport was issued to him. We'll put that letter on the screens, and there's every indication that also the presidency knew about him having an alias or a double identity. So the question this morning we want to ask, is that the best modus operandi? If the presidency knew, what could they have done about it? Because he used the identity in real time. He was using one on the other hand, sometime incorporating companies, sometime traveling through his traveling document, and then transacting business or daily activities. So we'll put a letter on the screens for you. So for example, he has a DVLA card that is bearing one name, and then a passport that's also bearing the other, another passport bearing another one, and then you have the letter also that gives you the indication that he was issued with it. So there is, if you take a look at the letter that has been issued, is indicating that a diplomatic passport for official travel, and of course it was issued because he's a trustee of the National Cathedral. And then it says, I write to request a diplomatic passport for officials of, or an official of the National Cathedral of Ghana for travels in the name of Kwabena Gyamfi, aka Reverend Kusi Boateng. Okay. Then there's another letter that says the request for diplomatic passport, Mr. Kwabena Gyamfi, aka Reverend Kusi Boateng. Now, so which one was he issued with? And why did the presidency condone this? Is that the way to go? If you look at the court records, that indicate that his double use of identity borders on criminality. And these are key questions that we don't want to shy away from and have some good representation right here. Mr. Amakuchum, so far, what has been the explanation for this? This was discovered back in 2021, apparently, with a letter that has been issued.
Well, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleagues here. These are my senior friends. It's just that we don't meet that often anymore. But, I mean, it's a pleasure to be on TV3 this morning. You know, I mean, I've been following this issue for a while. And I've always felt that, I mean, especially when it's gone to court, and then people are now seeking some clarification from the courts, then maybe we should leave it till it gets its final conclusion. In this country, we have a very funny way of appreciating our democracy. So when it suits us, we act in a certain manner. I mean, this individual that we're talking about has rights as well. And as far as I'm concerned, we have to give him an opportunity to explain or even get to the bottom of the matter so that we do not hang him just for the sake of it. I mean, once you accuse someone of something or there are allegations on anybody in this country, the rule of law actually mandates that you give him an opportunity to go through the full rigors of the judicial process. I mean, we have a lawyer actually 2 lawyers, right? So all I'll say is that, yes, even in this particular letter that you're displaying there was no indication that anybody wanted to hide that there was 2 persons or there's 2 different identities. People, even when it comes to either the entertainment, sports, I mean, things like the reverends and all that, go around with different names. And it's very clear that even the request itself actually indicated clearly that even though his name is Kwabena Gyamfi, he also has an alias called Reverend Kusi, right? I mean, so if it was an attempt to actually hide anything, these 2 letters, which are actually official communication, wouldn't have indicated that name at all. You understand? If there are other issues, I mean, for me, I always have a certain objective mindset. If there are other issues as to if really the propriety of using Kusi Boateng and Edu Gyamfi and anybody wants to take that on, that's totally different. But when it comes to communication between the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral and then the presidency, there was a certain acknowledgement that, yes, his name is Kwabena Gyamfi, but he goes by an alias or an AKA, also known as Reverend Kusi Boateng. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Now, you were reading some court judgment. I don't know what exactly it is. So, initially, before you started.
So there was an intended injunction, and the court threw out this against Okujeto Ablakwa, and it's from the ruling or the judgment that it reformed. So it's not as if it's this is a ruling, a judgment.
Exactly. So it hasn't gone to the full.
No, this one has been finished. The case of the injunction has been
exactly. So who was injuncting who?
It was Reverend Kusi Boateng and his team.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that, yes, so it looks like there's still an opportunity to...
There is?
Yes.
Let me put this to you.
This whole idea...
You make references to individuals who use alliances, and this is accepted. I think it's been accepted from time immemorial. There are those in entertainment industry. There are individuals who choose not to use their own identities publicly. There are even politicians who do that. But for official purposes of undertaking other business or daily transactions, they don't use those names for the transaction on documentation. But this is what we're seeing. And we've seen concurrent use. At one time, within the same period, it travels with one passport, bury another name, the other with another name.
Yeah, but those
Shouldn't you be traveling with one?
Those are questions that, for me, as far as I'm concerned, he has a right to answer. I mean, if we want to actually interrogate that, we can do that, right?
It's normal.
No. What I'm saying is that if the law actually is against using 2 documentation, like, because I can't sit here and corroborate if it's true or not. I mean, I've seen this thing on your screens, but I cannot tell if it's true or not. But what I'm saying is that...
You cannot tell what is true.
No, I cannot tell that this documentation that you are showing here is a case. I can't. There's no way of authenticating that. Am I lying? So if, for some reason, there's a very clear indication that this individual has done certain things that is against the laws of this country, so be it. I mean, nobody in this country is above the law. Let's do that. But with reference to this communication between government and the National Cathedral, there's very clear indication that the National Cathedral Trustee, the board itself, indicated that the man has an alias. And his name is Kwabena Gyamfi. He's also known as Reverend Kusi Boateng, right? What we haven't been able to establish is that when that diplomatic passport was issued or was approved, what name is in that diplomatic passport? Have you been able to establish that? It's a question. Have you been able to establish that? Right. So once we're able to establish the official name that went into that particular book, then we can now move further and say that maybe government was complicit in allowing the person.
You don't think the government is complicit in this?
No, but the point is that you can make these assertions, right? But all I'm saying is that it's very clear that at the point when this communication was being done, there was an admission that he has an alias, right? The issues to do with criminality and all of those things has nothing to do with even government.
We're not a court, so we're not discussing
exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah. But if it turns out that, right, and you know me, I mean, if it turns out that these actions are actions that are not in conformity with our constitution, so be it. Let's find the right ways of actually ensuring that, I mean, the individual involved, right, faces the full rigors of the law. I have no challenge with that, right? But it looks like in this particular conversation, we're trying to, you know, it's almost like we are trying so hard to bring government into the conversation as if that government is complicit, right? And there's a certain connivance with the individual to carry out these activities. But all I'm saying is that, as far as I'm concerned, the individual himself has a right to be heard, right? And we cannot pick and choose these aspects of our tenets of our democracy just because we want to hang somebody. And again, it's also clear, and I've said it a few times, it's also clear that if you look at the letter on there, even from the Office of the Presidency, it acknowledges that the name Kwabena Gyamfi, also known as Reverend Kusi Boateng, in that case, what it clears, I mean, unless of course I'm being ignorant here, it means that his name is Kwabena Gyamfi. Right, and I'll be interested.
So that's the name which of the names will you choose for him?
No, I don't have to choose a name for him.
Okay.
Right? But what I'm saying is that, as far as I'm concerned, I'll be interested to know if, with the admittance of this, there's actually a different name in his diplomatic passport.
All right.
Do you understand? Then we would also interrogate that.
All right. Now, for public use, Mr. Maliba, we know that for the judgment of the court in that injunction ruling, it did say that the above shows that the applicant who describes himself as Kwabena Gyamfi alias Victor Boateng possesses two taxpayer identification numbers in his two names, one in the name of Kwabena Gyamfi and the other in the name of Victor Kusi Boateng. It also reveals further that the two names used by the applicant represent two separate and distinct identities because from the records as shown, Victor Kusi Boateng was born in September 1971 and his mother's maiden name is Agnes Atta, while Kwabena Gyamfi was born, same person, was born on 30th December 1969. So there's a 2-year gap. The month of birth also in 71 is September. In 69, it is December, the same person, for which the presidency acknowledges is an AKA or an alias. Now, the court goes on to say that, once again, it is clear that the applicant who describes himself as the names used the two names independently and separately of each other in order to procure taxpayer identification numbers. And then the court says, for reasons best known to him. Now, the court goes on to say that in the face of the overwhelming evidence, the averment made by the applicant in a supplementary affidavit to the effect that he had been informed by the lawyer and or verily believes same to be that, per the laws of Ghana, the fact that the person can be identified by two set of names is not a crime, and such a person will be denied the protection of will not be denied the protection fundamental human rights of the 1992 Constitution, as said by his lawyers. Now, however, the court says this discloses a pattern of duplicity and a lack of transparency on the part of the applicant, which borders on criminality, and the failure of applicants to appreciate the import of his conduct and to be advised appropriately, which is unfortunate to say the least. What do you say to all this? Using double identity differently and the information supplied to acquire those identities and public documentation are separate, acknowledged by the court.
Let me start by saying that there is no need romanticizing this matter. Let's not romanticize it. The people I know in this world who have such dual identity and use it interchangeably or concurrently are drug barons. Are drug barons. The Mexican drug barons. That's how they do to escape security. So let's not romanticize it at all. This was done for a purpose, to either evade tax, which he might have done, to escape from some illegal activities, which he might have done. So the use of the two names, which are not AKA or whatever, but they are two names ascribed to one person, is clearly a criminally intended usage of the two names. You notice that the court, he went to court for with a defamation action.
That's the first case.
Yes. And the court in this ruling said that I don't even know who I should protect. Whose reputation? Because defamation has to do with protection of your reputation. I don't know which of the two I should protect. The judge said you have come. But if I'm to protect, is it Victor who?
Kusi Boateng.
Kusi Boateng or the Gyamfi should
Identity.
I protect? Which one should I protect? Now, look at the pattern the judge said, the judge alluded to. 8 companies set up in the name of Victor Kusi Boateng, 8 Gyamfi. Now, what does this mean? It means that when he sits in a board meeting in any of the first 8, it is not him. It is the one who was born in 69. If he sits in a meeting of the other 8, it is the one who was born in what? 74.
71.
71.
September 71.
Yes. Now check it again. He has 2 10 numbers. So when he sits in the first 8, his 10 number is different. And that, I am sure, goes against the National Identification Act. That everybody has 1 10 number. Nobody has 2 10 numbers. So you can see clearly a man who has decided that he was going to use his double identity to avoid maybe paying tax, to avoid maybe being identified, and maybe to use the 2 identities to promote some illegal conduct. That's all that it is.
So
That
it is
is
the conduct.
all that it is.
The intention.
The intention is clear, and the judge said it. The judge said it. You made a point. We all have aliases. I have one.
Authors have them.
We all have it.
What's your alias?
Now,
I have none.
now, your alias is not supposed to find space in official documents. Because it's not your identity. It doesn't add up to your identity. And therefore, to find the president and his executive secretary write such a letter with 2 names to a man who, in my view, does not engage in diplomatic transactions for the country. Because the name of that passport is called diplomatic passport.
I have to correct you. The letter does indicate that for travels as a trustee or a member of the National Cathedral of Ghana.
That doesn't make him a diplomat. That name.
National Cathedral of Ghana. You cannot be on National Cathedral and
I'm
travel.
saying that. But you can be a sweeper and travel. You can be a sweeping the president's office and travel. I'm saying that this passport is not issued to anyone. It is issued to persons with diplomatic status. You see, in that status, Kusi Boateng or Gyamfi, you see in that status. But these things can only happen in a criminal environment. And in criminal environments, some of these things flourish. Else, I am telling you, if this man were of the NDC fraternity, I am sure the Attorney General, who is hungry to have a day-to-day trial, would have hauled him to court to have his day-to-day trial. Because the judge, in this statement, in this ruling, indicated that what he has done borders on criminality. Is the Attorney General listening? He himself resigned from his position as a secretary to the cathedral. But will that absolve him himself? It's too late.
Well, the court will decide that one. What we're talking about are matters that have been decided by the courts.
I'm telling you that it's too late. This could be a grounds for day-to-day trial of him too. A day-to-day trial is coming. So, the point is, if you have your DVLA license in 2 different names, and you have your TIN number in 2 different names, you have your birth certificate, your birth date in 2 different names. Who are you? I'm asking you. Who is he? Not you are you, not you as you. Who is he? And Eric wants to romanticize this and say that.
So we should leave it to the court.
But this you are discussing a court ruling.
Yes, true.
It's a way of gagginess. It's a way of not spilling the beans. But we shall not. And I want to say that the Attorney General should this morning be inviting Edu, Gyamfi. Which of them he wants to invite, he should call. It will go to one person. Whether Victor or Kwabena, it will go to one person. Let the police pick him up. Let them investigate him. Let them put him before the court for criminal action.
Now, Lawyer Jantua, the very issue of the information that was given to procure these public documents, and then the letter that comes from or has been issued by the presidency making the requests, seeming to acknowledge his identities. Is it problematic?
Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to Eric and AB. 2 things. Now I don't know which name to use, whether I do Gyamfi or...
Feel free. We have Victor, Kusi Boateng, and Kwabena Gyamfi. They both had 2 different mothers, 2 different months in which they were born, 2 different years in which they were born.
So let me answer.
DVLA documents are there, etc.
Let me answer your question with a question. If it so happened that he was given an ambassadorial position to America or Britain or Germany or any of these European countries, or even any African country, and you know that when you're giving an ambassadorial position, the host country will do a due diligence on you, and the two names came up, will they accept him?
Say that again. I'm not
that's a good
getting this
question.
clear.
I'm saying,
If
he was given an ambassadorial position,
which of them?
he, the individual,
Okay.
let's say he used Gyamfi, he was given an ambassadorial position, and to either America, Germany, Britain, whichever country. And you know, when you're given an ambassadorial position, the host country does due diligence on you, and this other name came up with a different birth date. Will they accept it? Will they? Will America accept it? Will Britain accept it? Will Germany accept it? Will they not question? So that's my answer to you. They'll definitely question it and ask for more information about the individual Ghana is proposing. Let me use myself as an example. I have two names. My first name is Kwame Educhu. No, Papa Odikro.
Wait, let me be writing them down because this is your first name is what?
Papa Odikro Kwame Educhu Jantwa.
Odikro. Kwame Educhum.
Yes, Jantwa.
Educhum Jantwa.
Yes. And
Jantwa.
yes. And I use Kwame Jantwa.
Your official
That is the official name I use.
Your
Kwame-
official name
yes,
is
I use Kwame Jantwa.
Kwame Jantwa.
Now, the first name is also official.
You have a first name as official.
Yeah,
Which one's on your
The
document?
first one I gave you is official because that first one is on my birth certificate.
Okay.
So if I decide to use Papa Odikro Kwame Educhum, and I don't even use the Jantwa, to register probably a land or a house, and somebody comes to say that the man isn't Kwame Jantwa that you're talking about, and it's due diligence is done, and I'm asked to produce my birth certificate, and I produce it, you would see similarities in both names, don't you?
Yes, I'll say.
Does it happen with this one?
No, but you're a lawyer. Before you do this, you would have
Put
signed an affidavit.
Put the lawyer aside.
Okay.
I'm a layman. When you look at this gentleman's one, what makes it even worse is the fact that he has different birthdays for both names.
Different mothers too. It's quite interesting.
And different mothers for both names. So you ask the question, what's the mens rea there? What's the intention of having these two? So, I would have expected when the letter got to the presidency, and the presidency is not the individual, but the office, there should be somebody there whose responsibility it is to do due diligence on anybody that the government appoints. Anybody. You need to see the back record. Where are they coming from? What have they done in the past? All that needs to be done. So ask the question, was it done before the president assigned his signature to the letter? Was the real due diligence done? So we need to find out, when such letters get to the presidency, what is the process and procedure that would now allow the president to offer such a request? What is it? Then I come to the question. The name diplomatic passport, what does it connote? In Ghana, apparently, is given to diplomats, is given to anyone who is doing some public work, if I can use that.
On behalf of the state.
On behalf of the state. And what else? I do not understand why anybody who is not a diplomat should be given a diplomatic passport. Maybe, yes, the ministers of state, the president, the vice president, maybe that category of people, parliamentarians, maybe. But why should they be given diplomatic passports? What is so difficult in using your own passport to apply for a visa? If the Speaker of Parliament decides he needs to travel, will he not put his application early? And do you think if the Speaker of Parliament puts an application to American embassy for a visa, they will deny him? Do you think they will deny him? So I do not understand how, because in this country there are quite a number of people who have diplomatic passports and have nothing to do with working for the state. Nothing. But you see, it goes to show how low we have dropped in some of these things. Definitely, due diligence should have been done when that letter got to the presidency. National Cathedral, is it an edifice that needs that its operators should be given diplomatic passports? Is it? Is this something that you say?
The National Cathedral of Ghana.
It's so essential to the country. So essential to the country. The country cannot do without it. So give that individual a diplomatic passport so that he can go and execute what is required to build that, cathedral. I don't see it. I do not see it. There are much more important things or much more important situations that could lead to somebody giving a diplomatic passport. But Roland, we need to find out what the processes are in terms of acquiring a diplomatic passport through the presidency. And is it the president who needs to give it, or is it the Minister of Foreign Affairs' responsibility to do that? Why was the letter written to the presidency for that to happen? Shouldn't it be the Minister of Foreign Affairs? Is the presidency the Minister of Foreign Affairs? Or you need the president's go-ahead to offer, to issue that passport? So it's left hanging, but I do not see how somebody would want 2 TIN numbers. Somebody would want, the fact that he has 2 separate lists of companies, for me, is neither here nor there. If he wants to do business, he's entitled to it. But the underlying stuff, the TIN numbers, the date of birth, and even to make it worse, how can you believe that the mothers he's put on that particular dates are his true mothers? How can you believe? So
the mothers too are different.
Yes,
there are two different mothers.
2 mothers different. So it's
two different years of
it's up to him.
birth.
It's up to him.
2 different months.
It's
of
up
birth.
to him to come and explain. But what makes it even more sad is the fact that he's a reverend. I mean, he's a good preacher.
You like him?
Yes, I've heard him preach before. He's a good preacher. He preaches very well. And for such a thing to drag into the Christian sect, I think it shouldn't have. There must be something more to it than meets the eye. So, let's see.
Now, the presidency's acknowledgement that there's an AKA, you think that is not untoward?
No, I mean, I think that we are discussing 2 separate issues here. I mean, if there's some criminality involved, and that is actually something that is being determined by a court, I have no challenge with that. Now, if we're discussing a letter that was written to the presidency, and the letter itself indicated that there's an alias called AKA, you understand? And referring to Kwabena Gyamfi. and then the presidency responds same. I honestly don't see anything wrong with that. Because, I mean, this is an individual who's been preaching for quite a while, and everybody knows him as Reverend Kusi Boateng. Right? There's so many people who have different names, and once you delve deeper, you find out that they have names that you probably not even know that existed, you understand? So that, for me, is two different things. Honestly, I'm not a spokesperson for the individual involved.
Which individual?
The Reverend Kusi Boateng. I'm not a spokesperson for him. I don't have a brief.
How about,
I don't have a brief.
Victor Kusi?
I don't know him. I've never met him.
Gyamfi.
I've never met him. You
But,
understand what
but
I'm
you,
saying? So
you know Victor.
I don't know him.
You only know.
He said he doesn't know.
I've
him.
He doesn't know
met-
Edu Gyamfi, or he doesn't know
I don't
Victor.
know anyone.
Then-
I have never met him. I mean, you understand? I've never engaged him. You know what I mean? But all I'm saying is that once you situate a conversation in where the presidency actually acknowledges that this community Gyamfi is known popularly as a Reverend Kusi Boateng, that's, for me, I think that it's not the big issue here. I would also be very objective and say that with all the things that have been pointed out, which is issues to do with different mothers, different thing and all that, we have a system in place. We have mechanisms in place as a country to deal with that. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that, because as far as we're concerned, as a nation, we can't have situations where certain persons are above the law. And I will not sit here and even encourage or countenance that particular issues. But as far as I'm concerned as well, like the lawyers will always say, the individual himself has a right to respond. Right? He has a right to respond. And then once he responds, then we can now get to, the bottom of the matter. I'll tell you something for free. There's an issue that I had
You have two identities?
No, I don't, yeah. That I had to deal with, where if you go into the public
Eric
sector,
cannot have two identities.
right, there's a lot of these things that happen where they have their state records are different from what is at the controller. And just because for one reason or the other, anytime they are closer to retirement, the age changes. And the story is that, when they were born, there were no keeping records of their day. They just found out that they were born in a particular day. If you go to the National Labour Commission today, there are so many cases like that where people are being asked to retire and they are still resisting because they claim that, you understand what I'm saying? So these are, for me, I think that there are broader conversations that we can have when it comes to these things to do with identity and everything. Having a name on a birth certificate, you going to school, and the older ones will tell you that you go to school and your teacher gives you a Christian name.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden...
Mr. Makuche, let's put
let's
put the matters into perspective. Now, if you are born in 1971 with a certain name, and then you get to find out in 2017 that apparently you were born in 1969.
Yes.
1969. That's two, right? At what point in time do you determine that your mother's name also changed and was also discovered at some point?
But those are very...
No, please. Let me lay the foundation.
You can't be asking me these questions
because
to speak for the individual.
Because you are saying it's nothing.
No, but I'm just...
I
didn't say it's nothing. I'm saying that.
Mr. Makuche, let me lay the foundation.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And then concurrently, you use the same identities in real time, closer to the period of the discussion of this matter. Even apart from the defamation case, the injunction, and the current issue in court. You use these identities in real time. You travel with the different identities closer to each other within a certain period of time. You acquire a driver's license closer to a period of time and use them concurrently. Let's say you have a driver's license in one name, you have a passport and another passport in a different name. You travel differently on different routes with the two identities concurrently. You actually go ahead and register tax or TIN numbers with the two identities, not before 2017. You understand? You incorporate companies that are working, employing people with those two identities. you don't think that the president's acknowledgement of that issue, that there's an alliance?
No, but I think that, to be honest with you, it's a very unfair question to ask me, because I don't speak for the individual. I won't be able to tell you the motivation behind.
What is your opinion?
Do you understand? My opinion on the matter is that there are two issues. There are two issues here. The issue of criminality is not determined by Eric Amoakuchum. The issues of criminality is determined by a court of law.
And the court said that in the ruling.
Right? Now, the issue of a letter, correspondence between the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral and the presidency is a very simple letter that does not tell you date of birth, this. All that it says that this Kwabena Gyamfi, also known as Reverend Kusi Boateng, requires the services of this particular office to acquire a diplomatic passport. The details of what is required for that passport would be given later, as far as I'm concerned. So if the presidency acknowledges that his name is Reverend Kusi Boateng, also because that is what is popularly known as, I don't see a problem with that. The issues to do with the criminality, date of birth, his mother's name, TIN numbers, and all of those things are questions that has to be answered by himself.
So let me ask you.
Right. So
let me ask you. Do you think due diligence should have been done once that letter was brought and those two names were on there?
He says
I don't have a problem with.
No, I want his opinion.
No.
He said he can't answer.
No, I can answer that. I mean,
please answer.
come on. I mean, I'm not what do you call a coward. If the call now is that proper due diligence should have been done, I won't have a challenge with that.
But shouldn't it have been done before it was?
No, but that's what I'm saying. That you see, in all of this conversation, the conversation about double identity and duplicity are things that are supposed to be determined by a court of law, as far as I'm concerned. But if there's an acknowledgement that the guy goes around with a name as Reverend Kusi Boateng,
you say if there is an acknowledgement, there is acknowledgement
yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying.
Public record.
Yeah, but it is on record because, as far as I'm concerned, until recently when
how many companies do you have, let's say, for example?
Listen, let me finish. Until recently when this issue came up, I didn't know that the guy was called Kwabena Gyamfi. All that I've heard, I mean, on social media and everything, is Reverend Kusi Boateng. You understand what I'm saying? Now, is it illegal for somebody to call himself something else? Probably not. If it goes deeper into the incorporation of companies, TIN numbers, and all of those things, those are things that are supposed to be determined by a court of law. But I don't answer these questions for him as an individual.
Yes, please.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And in any case, I mean, even as a government, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a statement coming from even the presidency to indicate that, well, these are the process, this is what was available to us at this time, and this is the reasons why we made those decisions. There's nothing wrong with that because, I mean, once you're running a government, these are moving things. It's fluid.
I beg
to
differ.
You understand? But
I beg to differ.
Okay,
please hold your opinion.
I beg to differ.
You see, you're going to,
Yeah. So I want to conclude on this matter by asking the question: at the end of the day, apart from the issue that's in court, we have instances where there are public records indicating that you're using multiple identities at the same time. What will be the motive? Eric says that he can't answer that.
And Eric, in his submission, indicated that there are some public officers who, because they want to beat the retiring age limit, would give different names and those type of things. He said it.
But that's illegal.
He said it.
Sure.
Now, Eric, in giving that example, what do you think was the purpose? Mens rea of
no,
those
but
people? It is simply to beat the age limit. So, was it not an illegal act? It is. When you bring it to Kusi Boateng, all that he did, and I'm wondering how somebody who lives in a glass house will be throwing stones. You go to court, sue in 3 actions: defamation, enforcement of your privacy, and then contempt. There's even contempt.
Yes.
And yet you have all this baggage with you, and you are going to court. How? And that is why in the ruling, this is not the defamation action. I'm told the defamation is still on. This was about the enforcement of his fundamental human rights of privacy and whatever. So the ruling indicated that it borders on criminality. What else can it be? How come that you alone, you alone, when they gave birth to you, suddenly everything started changing. Your mother started changing. Your name started changing. And for you, your everything is changing. You are older than me. I don't know if you've seen people like that. Huh? Everything of yours is changing. He says that, yes, you can go to school and then your name will change later on, Christian name and what you can name. But when that happens, you swear a statutory declaration. You know, to say that, okay, you used to be this, you are now this, but all documents that bore the name of the first one still are valid. You see it, even Daily Graphic, if you are a frequent reader of the Daily Graphic, you see it. You see it. You see it. Did he do these things? He didn't. So for me, as for the presidency, they need to respond. They need to respond. The presidency needs to respond. I can't teach them how to respond, but I think that the old guys have respond. And if they don't respond, then what I'm hearing, that we are ruled by criminals, would then be true. If not, they should respond to this matter.
So you said you wanted to say something, sir.
Look, I think the presidency did not do the work of due diligence. I think they failed on that score. Hold on, let me give you another example. You want to go to Britain, you want to go to America, you want to go to Germany, you want to go to South Africa, you want to go to Botswana, you want to go to Ethiopia. You go to the embassy, you put your application forward, you fill it. My name is Roland Walker, aka
alias
no.
Walker Roland.
No.
Walker Bush.
No.
Ashama boy.
Ashama Walker.
No. Ashaman boy.
The boy.
The reason why I say Ashaman boy is because that Walker, which is your name, is not in your AKA. Ashaman boy. When your application gets to the embassy, won't they question you on that? Will they not question you on that? And where the presidency failed was the fact that the application that it was meant for is a very important document in this country that you just don't give willy-nilly to anybody. And so really and truly, they should have gone deeper into the AKA. The president should have asked, okay, we know this gentleman, but we know him as what? Reverend Kusi Boateng, right?
It depends on which one you want to use.
No.
We have Kwabena Gyamfi.
I didn't
and then
know.
We have Reverend Kusi Boateng.
I never knew, like Eric, I never knew he was called Reverend Gyamfi. It was called Gyamfi. I knew him as Reverend Kusi Boateng.
You know him personally?
Yeah, but I say he comes to my church. He comes to preach in my church. So I know him on that score, but I've never spoken with him before. Wouldn't the president, won't his eyes, look at it and say, and remember that president is also a lawyer. I've never known this gentleman, not unless he knows him before. I've never known this gentleman to have two names. He's applying for a diplomatic passport. A diplomatic passport is a representation of the country. You go anywhere, you put that passport down, you walk. Please, do your due diligence on the names just to make sure that he's cleared and nothing untoward is against those names. I feel it is something that should be in the procedure and the process, because other embassies would do it. You cannot go and apply for a visa in any embassy and say, I'm called Kwame Jantua, aka Wisdom Atekpe or Wisdom K or Jennifer A. You can't do that. So why didn't it happen here?
All right. Well, to issue passports and travel certificates, there's a decree. It is the NLC Decree 155 of 1967. You can go look out for and get the processes for issuance of passports and who deserves a diplomatic passport, etc. But